and welcome to another episode of my car podcast. The second part of the day in which I'm going home. The best part of the day, so I can go home and edit the podcast. After a couple of seconds, you will probably be hearing the podcast. So sit back, relax, enjoy. The prompt that I was using about the podcast is awesome. So I will see you at the end or tomorrow.
Hey there. Today we're going to dive into some pretty thought-provoking stuff.
Okay.
From the 900th episode of the Modern Wisdom podcast with Chris Williamson.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
He's talking about these unteachable lessons.
Yeah.
Those things in life you just can't learn until you experience them firsthand.
Yeah.
Like we've all heard that money doesn't buy happiness, right?
Right. But it's not until you've maybe achieved a certain level of financial success that you truly grasp it.
Exactly.
It's almost like we think we'll be the exception to these universal truths.
Yeah. And it's not just about money. It's also about things like the sting of heartbreak or the importance of family.
Mm-hmm.
These lessons seem so obvious, yet we often find ourselves having to learn them the hard way.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
It is. And what I find fascinating is how society often reacts when someone tries to share these hard-won truths. Like imagine a billionaire saying, money doesn't bring happiness.
Right.
People might roll their eyes or accuse them of being out of touch.
It's like we need to touch the stove ourselves to believe it's hot.
Right.
And then when we get burned, everyone says, well, what did you think was going to happen?
Exactly. It's a strange paradox. We resist learning from others' experiences, and then we criticize them for trying to warn us.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder, what are some of those unteachable lessons you've encountered in your own life?
Right.
Have you ever felt immune to conventional wisdom, only to find out the hard way that it applies to you too?
You know what's really cool about this episode?
What's that?
Chris also dives into this concept of reverse charisma.
Yes. The art of making others feel interesting rather than trying to be interesting yourself.
He tells this great story about Winston Churchill's mother.
Okay.
She had dinner with Prime Ministers Disraeli and Gladstone on consecutive nights.
Wow.
When asked about her impressions, she said, "When I left the dining room after sitting next to Gladstone, I thought he was the cleverest man in England.
Mm-hmm.
But when I sat next to Disraeli, I left feeling like I was the cleverest woman."
That's brilliant.
Isn't that brilliant?
It perfectly illustrates the power of reverse charisma. Instead of focusing on showcasing your own wit and charm, you create a space where others feel comfortable opening up and sharing their own brilliance.
Yeah.
Think about it this way.
Okay.
It's about shifting your focus from being the star of the show to being the most attentive audience member.
Here's the cool part. Chris actually backed this up with a study.
Oh, really?
Researchers had a participant take a flight,
Okay.
and they planted someone next to them who was instructed to just keep the conversation going without revealing anything personal about themselves.
That's right. They simply kept asking questions and drawing the participant out.
And guess what? The participant raved about how fascinating the planted individual was.
It's amazing, isn't it? It highlights how people are often drawn to those who make them feel comfortable and seen rather than those who are simply trying to impress. You know what I mean?
Totally. So how do we actually cultivate this reverse charisma in our own lives?
Well, it starts with being a good listener. Really listening to what the other person is saying, not just waiting for your turn to speak. It's about asking engaging questions that encourage them to share their thoughts and experiences.
And creating a safe space for them to be vulnerable, right?
Exactly.
Where they feel like they can be themselves without judgment.
It's about making the other person feel like they're the most interesting person in the room.
Yep.
Let me break this down.
Okay.
By shifting our focus from ourselves to others, we can create deeper connections and have more meaningful interactions.
Here's something that surprised me.
What's that?
Chris also talks about this challenging career transition that many people face.
Okay.
It's moving from being the operator guy to becoming the idea guy.
It's a fascinating dynamic. You spend your early career hustling, getting things done, and proving yourself through hard work.
Yeah.
You become known as the person who can execute and deliver.
But then as you progress,
Yeah.
you're often required to take a step back and take on a more strategic, idea-driven role.
Right.
And that can be incredibly difficult for someone who's wired for action and used to measuring success by how much they're doing.
Absolutely. You get addicted to that dopamine rush of ticking things off your to-do list, even if those tasks aren't really moving the needle in a meaningful way.
It's like we get caught in this trap of being busy for the sake of being busy.
Right.
But being busy doesn't necessarily mean you're being effective.
Right. And Chris argues that this is partly because our society tends to reward busyness over quiet effectiveness. We wear those long work hours and packed schedules like badges of honor.
It's almost like we've been conditioned to believe that if we're not constantly doing something,
Right.
we're not valuable. But sometimes the most impactful thing you can do is step away from the keyboard, clear your head,
Yeah.
and give yourself space to think deeply about the bigger picture.
I couldn't agree more. And Chris actually suggests asking yourself a really powerful question.
Okay.
Is my job to press enter on emails?
Oh,
Or to actually move the mission forward?
that's such a great question. It forces you to confront whether you're truly adding value or just spinning your wheels.
Yeah.
And it challenges you to think about how you can be more strategic and impactful in your work.
You know, what's interesting is that this idea of effectiveness over busyness ties into another concept Chris talks about, prioritizing lifestyle over wealth.
Oh, yeah. He argues that we often chase more money without really stopping to consider whether it would actually change our day-to-day lives in a meaningful way.
Exactly. He gives this example.
Okay.
If doubling your net worth wouldn't change how you spend your time, you're essentially already living a rich life.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing when you've reached a point where more money wouldn't significantly improve your quality of life. You know what I mean?
Totally. It's like, what's the point of having a ton of money if you're still working yourself to the bone and not enjoying the things that truly matter?
Right. And this leads to another fascinating idea Chris brings up.
Okay.
Deliberate de-optimization.
Deliberate de-optimization. Okay, let me break this down for our listeners. What's that all about?
It's the idea that we can actually benefit from intentionally letting go of certain areas in our lives that we might be over-optimizing. You know, some people are constantly striving for perfection in every aspect of their existence.
Oh, yeah, I know those types. The ones who have color-coded spreadsheets for their grocery lists.
Exactly. But Chris suggests that this constant pursuit of optimization can be incredibly draining. It can suck up all our mental energy and prevent us from focusing on the things that truly matter.
So it's kind of like giving yourself permission to be good enough in certain areas so you can free up time and energy to excel in others.
Precisely. It's about recognizing that you don't need to have it all figured out and that it's okay to let go of some things.
Yeah.
This can reduce stress and free up mental bandwidth for more important pursuits.
You know, he also brings up this quote from Kurt Vonnegut that I found really thought-provoking.
What is it?
We are what we pretend to be. So we must be careful about what we pretend to be.
That's a powerful one. It speaks to the danger of creating a public persona that we feel pressured to maintain,
Right.
even if it no longer aligns with who we are becoming as individuals.
He shares this story about a YouTuber who stopped making videos because he felt trapped by the persona he'd created online.
Right.
It no longer reflected who he was offline, and he felt like he was living a lie.
It's a reminder that authenticity is crucial, both for our own well-being and for building genuine connections with others.
Yeah.
If we're constantly pretending to be someone we're not, it can lead to a lot of internal conflict and prevent us from truly connecting with others. Isn't that interesting?
It is. And it makes you think about those little white lies we tell ourselves and others. Are we really being true to ourselves, or are we just playing a role?
Here's another gem from the episode that I found particularly insightful, especially since we're talking about relationships.
Okay.
Chris talks about this advice from Chris Bumstead, the champion bodybuilder.
Okay.
Bumstead says it's crucial to find a partner you feel safe being a burden to.
That's an interesting way to put it. It speaks to the importance of vulnerability and acceptance in a relationship, right?
Absolutely. Bumstead emphasizes that we all have moments when we're not at our best,
Yeah.
when we need support and understanding. And if you can't be your true messy self with your partner, you're never going to feel truly safe or connected.
He also points out that having a wildly successful career but a terrible marriage can make life miserable. But having an average career and an amazing marriage can make you incredibly happy.
It's a great point. It's a reminder to prioritize the quality of our relationships over external markers of success.
And you know what else Chris does?
What's that?
He shares 5 questions to ask yourself if you're unsure about your relationship.
Oh, yeah. Those were insightful. Let's go through them.
Okay. The first one is,
Okay.
if someone told you you're a lot like your partner, Would you take that as a compliment?
The second is, are you truly fulfilled in this relationship, or are you just less lonely? Think about that one for a second.
Number 3, are you able to be yourself completely and unapologetically? Or do you feel like you need to change or hide parts of yourself to please your partner?
The fourth one is a biggie. Are you in love with your partner as they are right now as a whole person? Or are you only in love with their good side, their potential, or the idea of them?
And the final question is, would you want your future child, or maybe a child you're close to date someone like your partner?
Those are some tough questions, but they really make you stop and think, don't they?
They do. They challenge you to look at your relationship honestly and assess whether it's truly serving you.
Chris also shares some wisdom from Hudson.
Okay.
The relationship expert Hudson says, if you find a woman who believes in your dreams even more than you do, who pushes you to be a better man, who wants to work alongside you to achieve those dreams, and who's grateful for what you have together, marry her.
It's a beautiful sentiment. Finding someone who supports you, inspires you, celebrates your wins, and helps you through the tough times. That kind of partnership can make life so much richer and more meaningful.
It highlights how the right partner can amplify your strengths, encourage your growth, and make the journey of life more enjoyable. It's not just about finding someone to share your life with, it's about finding someone who helps you become the best version of yourself.
Chris also touches on a complex topic in this episode, the black pill philosophy and the incel phenomenon.
It's a sensitive subject, but I think it's important to address. Chris argues that while there may be some truth to their observations about dating dynamics and societal pressures, their proposed solutions are often rooted in negativity and blame.
He believes that instead of fixating on external factors like women's high standards, these men should focus on taking personal responsibility for their own happiness and success. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. He emphasizes that improving your physical fitness, developing social skills, pursuing your passions, and contributing to the world are far more effective strategies for attracting a partner than dwelling on perceived injustices.
It's about focusing on what you can control and becoming the best version of yourself, rather than blaming others for your circumstances.
Yeah.
Here's the cool part.
What's that?
He also challenges the idea that women only date a small percentage of men at the very top.
Right.
Corey points out that if that were true, you wouldn't see couples walking around who aren't perfectly matched in terms of looks.
Yeah.
It's a more nuanced picture than what the black pill community often portrays.
Right. It's about recognizing that attraction and compatibility are complex and go beyond simple metrics like looks or social status, and that relationships are built on mutual respect, shared values, and a genuine connection.
You know what's really cool about this whole episode?
Yeah.
It's packed with so much practical wisdom that you can actually apply to your own life.
Yeah.
It's not just about abstract concept. It's about actionable advice that can help you improve your relationships, your career, and your overall well-being.
I totally agree. It encourages us to examine our beliefs, challenge our assumptions, and make choices that align with our values and aspirations.
It's a good reminder that we have the power to create the life we want.
Right.
Both personally and professionally.
Yeah.
We don't have to be victims of our circumstances.
Exactly. It all starts with taking ownership of our choices.
Yeah.
Cultivating self-awareness, and surrounding ourselves with people who support our growth and challenge us to be better.
So what does all of this mean for you, our listener?
Right.
Now that you've heard Chris Williamson's ideas on unteachable lessons, reverse charisma, the transition from operator to idea guy, and so much more, what resonated with you the most?
Think about those unteachable lessons you've learned in your own life.
Yeah.
Those moments where you had to experience something firsthand to truly understand it.
Right.
What were those moments for you?
And how can you cultivate more reverse charisma in your interactions with others? Did you become a better listener? Ask more engaging questions?
Yeah.
Make people feel more seen and heard?
Could you benefit from deliberately de-optimizing certain areas of your life? What are those areas where you're striving for perfection when good enough might actually be enough? Could letting go of that need for control free up some mental space for you to focus on things that truly matter?
We really encourage you to check out the full Modern Wisdom episode with Chris Williamson if you want to explore these concepts even further. It's a great conversation starter, and it might just challenge you to think differently about your life and the choices you're making.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of unteachable lessons, reverse charisma, and the pursuit of a meaningful life. We hope you found it insightful and thought-provoking. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep questioning.
It's hard. For some people, it's just a pattern, right? It's like getting biceps are hard.